What's up guys, this is Chris with Half Chrome. Today doing something a little bit different than drones. Going to talk about the FeiyuTech AK4500, their top of the line gimbal for digital SLRs, and just mirrorless cameras like this. A little bit more than what we needed for our APS-C size sensors, but just a kick butt gimbal overall. Might not be the gimbal you've heard of, right? There's some other players in the market, but I'm here to tell you this thing is top notch, and I'll tell you about all the details with a full review when I come right back. Welcome back guys. Before I talk about this gimbal, let me tell you a little bit my history with gimbals overall. So my first gimbal was FeiyuTech. It was a little GoPro gimbal for one of the original GoPros, and it worked incredibly well. Amazed with the smoothness of footage you could get from a gimbal. From there we moved on to cell phone carrying gimbals like this one here. This one a great one as well. But ultimately not a huge fan of the limitations caused by the cell phone itself with its own internal stabilization causing some shake when you walk around. Then of course we've got this guy here, the new style of pocket gimbal. And FeiyuTech has one of those as well actually, which I just learned looking at their website today. These things definitely have their place. But ever since I got rid of my Crane 2, which is another high-end gimbal, I've been missing having one of these, totally regretted, and that's why I'm super happy to have this one now. And the FeiyuTech AK4500, definitely a keeper. It's not going anywhere. So you might be thinking this is not the company you've heard of for gimbals. So is the hardware there? Is it going to really be up to snuff? And I'm here to tell you it definitely is. Let me walk you through some of my favorite hardware features here. So first of all, the motors on it, everything else super sturdy. All of the balance adjustment, rock solid. I really like how the camera integrates as well. I'll talk about that a little more in a second. The focus follow wheel, nice and smooth. We've got this extra attachment arm here, which gives you the ability to do the underslung mode by removing the tripod and kind of turning it into a handle. I love having this handle up here. Even for regular shooting, it's pretty nice to have. This thing isn't that heavy, especially with my APS-C sensor. It has a capacity of over 4 kilograms, the gimbal itself weighing only about 1.6. Now if I were buying a gimbal, I'd probably go for their smaller AK2000S, which is more than enough to support our smaller cameras. Although that being said, you are going to always benefit from a little bit heavier. That gimbal does weigh a little bit less, but it can't handle your full frame cameras that are going to have the big lenses. So this is the top of the line model. Definitely not downgrading now that I have it. Super happy with it. So back on to more of the hardware. I really like this trigger button in the front. It lets me switch from just pan follow. While I'm holding it down, it's going to do the tilt follow as well. So that's cool. I've got my normal modes back here I can play around with. I've got full on lock. Let me center it. A double click here will recenter the gimbal. And now it's just locked on. Let me do that one. This is a mode that's missing from some gimbals, including many of the pocket gimbals, and one that I really do like having. It seems like a requirement to me. Don't understand why it's not always there. We've got normal full follow mode here. And this one actually will let me do some tilt as well. Now you could use this to do some Inception-like shots, but there's actually a better way of doing that. I'll show you in a second. I really like their camera disconnect system here. Let me show it to you real quick. So the camera actually kind of snaps in and automatically locks. So check this out. Oops, gotta have that open. And there, it's on there. You can make sure it's snug by pushing a little bit on there, but it's really already on and it's all set and balanced for me. I've got a total of 3 different USB sources up here for camera control, powering things, all kinds of things. I haven't messed with that too much. I'm actually connecting this wirelessly to the gimbal. I can control my camera with it, and I'll talk about that when I get into the app. Another hardware thing that makes this easy to balance is the locks. So now I've locked out this gimbal. There are these little latches here, and you can lock out all of the axes. Find the last one there. Now the thing will not move at all. It's all locked up. So this lets you isolate each axis and balance them independently. Of course, you're going to only do that when it's turned off. So before I turn it back on, I'm going to unlock everything, and here we go. If it's too far out of whack when it first turns on, it won't actually recenter things. You might have to give it a little encouragement like that. I think that's an intentional feature so it doesn't whip the camera all over the place when you first turn it on. Another thing I always like in my gimbals is that they will spin all the way around, which this one will. Although I've got it set pretty slow right now in the thumb control. I am controlling this with the little joystick that's on the handle here. As I said, I had this thing dialed down pretty slow for nice, fine, smooth adjustments if you want to use the little joystick for that. I won't go through all the details of the software, but one of my favorite things this thing has is called Inception Mode. What it does is it will stabilize somewhat during this, but it will start spinning the camera like this. So this is meant to be held kind of in this pointed direction here, this kind of format. Would be nice to have the handle up here for this one. But the camera spins. You can adjust that speed with the joystick on the back. You can see them going nice and fast now. And you can reverse the direction as well. And that's as slow as it goes right there. So Inception can get some really cool shots, as you can see here. A lot of fun you can have with that. And, I was thinking, can't you always just do that in post? Well, not really. I mean, you would have to throw away so much resolution to do that. I mean, even if you're recording in 6K or something, the amount of cropping you have to do a full rotation in post is significant. So having that kind of feature there, really nice. If I just move the menu over to the side, it's going to put it back into a normal mode. A couple other things it has a selfie, which just turns it around on you pretty easily there. And I'm just going to double click to get that back to where it belongs. It will go portrait mode, but that's grayed out until you tilt it forward. One of the gimbal axes, they have a limited range. The camera doesn't bang into things, stuff like that. Once I have it here, leaning forward, I can hit portrait and I can record my TikTok videos or whatever you want to do in portrait mode. Next, let's get into the app to see what's going on there. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to connect my camera to the gimbal through the phone. So the phone actually uses the app to connect to the gimbal with Bluetooth, the camera with Wi-Fi. So let me get that going. I'm using the FeiyuTech app, and once you've set it up, it's going to automatically connect with your gimbal, which it's done now. But depending on your camera, of course, it may not automatically connect to it. So depending how you have your camera set up, I'm going to go in the menu. In my Sony, it's control with smartphone, connection. Okay, it's looking for it now. And since I've connected it, it looks like it's already set. Quick way to check that, let me hit the shutter button. There we go. So now I'm doing that. One thing I noticed on my Sony camera at least, I have to be in a picture taking mode to be able to use the camera button. Similarly, in order to be able to use the video button here on the joystick, I'm going to have to be in the regular old video mode. So it won't force a video recording unless you're in that mode. So there are three things that this app is really useful for. First up is just doing firmware updates. So really simple to do through the interface on your phone. Next is I can use the phone here as a joystick, just like the joystick that's on the back of the handle here, and I can control the gimbal. Again, I've got it slow. All those settings can be easily changed in the app. I have the ability to change the modes here, the different kind of ways of locking or controlling the gimbal. I'm not sure really why I would do that. It's so easy to do using the touchscreen on the gimbal itself. So that doesn't add a lot of utility. And the last thing you need the app for is to make that connection between the camera and the gimbal via the phone. That's useful for the shutter button, as I mentioned, but also for motion time-lapse. Otherwise, it won't be able to tell the camera to take the pictures. You'd have to set that up independently. By swiping once to the right, you get to the motion time-lapse feature where you set up the time settings. And it took me a while to figure this out, but you kind of navigate the hours, minutes, and seconds using the joystick on the back. And to set the amount of time in each of those, you're going to use the focus follow dial to change the numbers. Now there are settings in the app that you're supposed to be able to transfer some of these times over to the gimbal. That's one thing that wasn't working for me, so I'm just changing them here, but once you figure out how to do it, it's easy enough to do it on the gimbal anyway. Once you have the time settings set up, you go to route settings and you set the different points. I'm going to touch OK on the screen, then I'm just going to reposition the camera, kind of overcoming the motors there a little bit in order to reposition it, and hit OK. And you can hear the shutter going, the gimbal moving and pausing. I set it up to do a pause, so I think it's like roughly a 3-second motion, then a 2-second pause. There is some delay in setting off the shutter, so it might be useful to do that, especially if you're doing a time lapse in low light. If you're doing it in high light, I wouldn't do any pause at all. The gimbal is going to usually be moving so slow during a time lapse, you're not going to get any meaningful blur. I'm just going to hit escape here to stop this time lapse. There are a couple things I'd love to see improved in the app. The first is full control of motion time lapse in your phone interface. It is going to be easier to use the phone a little bit, although it's not that hard here either. Second is some kind of follow mode tracking. The competition here has tracking capabilities. It's not super important for me, but it can be really nice to have. Different companies do it differently. My favorite implementation would be able to use the app. So put the phone up here, use the phone's camera to do the tracking and actually control what the camera and the gimbal are pointing at. Be a really nice add-on. I'd love to see that. Now, depending when and where you buy this gimbal, it's going to cost you around $400, $450 probably. Not a bad deal given the quality of the hardware here. You can save a little bit of money by going with the AK2000 and save about $100 for that. Am I going to be getting rid of this gimbal? Absolutely not. This thing is totally a keeper and is our new go-to approach to recording high-end video. There's definitely still a place for pocket gimbals in the world. I'd love for one of these to come out with like a 1-inch sensor or something, but for now I'm using this quite frequently. Very nice to have as well. Now if you want to know more about what we review, what we look at, check us out on halfchrome.com. Make sure you subscribe to this channel to learn more about the drones we fly, the other cameras we use, and some of the other equipment that we use. I hope you found this video informative about the AK4500. Make sure you leave any comments or questions in the description below. We'll try to get them answered for you. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.